Good morning.
Good morning, Mamacita. How are you?
Good. And you?
No, I'm good. I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Everybody is okay. Busy, but okay.
Okay, how are the grandbabies?
Today I'm gonna have here Ellie because my daughter-in-law birthday was yesterday and she's gonna be for spa day today.
All right.
Yeah.
We should be okay because I did ask Linda to jump on as well to help with the moderation because as you can see, I'm in the car. Um, but I will try to do my best. I'll be logging in from my phone. So
Okay.
yeah. And we should have today, it's our day 12, where we should have Lillian from Cameroon. Let's see on the participants if she's in already.
No, we are just four of us.
Yeah, because I see Uncle Charles is there.
And Ezekiel.
Oh, right. So we're still missing our panelists. So let's give them, I would say 4 minutes. What do you think, Mamacita? 4 minutes,
They,
right?
they are here.
Then we
The panelists, Joyce and
okay, we do have the ladies for the widow's memoirs. That's wonderful.
yeah.
And we're
Okay.
waiting on Ada. So Lillian Dibiong from Cameroon. And we also have Wanja from Kenya. And Ada is also from Cameroon. And then Rose from Rose's Life Women's Center from BC. She should be able to give us a
So
presentation
Lillian,
on elderly abuse.
Rosemary
Uh,
is coming.
yeah, she is. I know it's 2 minutes after 6 her time, but I did send her everything. So what we will do is we'll give them a few more minutes, like a minute. Then we'll be able to start with Joyce and Caroline, who will then share because it's a fireside chat and we would want them to share their experiences, their struggles as widows, and what is going on in their community and what their take is.
Um, Uncle Charles, it is possible to turn the phone or whatever because I kind of
You're seeing
there
them
is
upside
okay,
down. Yeah.
but yeah, we're gonna talk today about really important area on where the elder and not only the elder but the caregivers relationship with the elders. And Banja is here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good to see you, Banja. How are you? So we will kind of twist our day just before we start recording. We will start backwards. We'll start with the widow's memoir, where they'll share their struggles because they're already here and we are cognizant of the time because I know in Kenya it's already after 5 p.m. And they are actually presenting from the office of the Alpha Support Center, and we cannot keep them long because they still have to make their way home. So we also want to keep
Correct.
the women safe, right? So we will start backwards. So we'll start with our widows and then That way, when Rosemary comes, because she's local, she'll be able to give a presentation last. Is that all right?
Yep.
You're right.
Okay, wonderful. So I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're joining us from around the globe. Just giving heads up with the housekeeping rules. If we can all mute our mics when the speakers are speaking, that way we do not hear echoes or feedback from the mics. And if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll be able to see it, or you can raise your question in the chat. So we also want to, and we, as Hope for Her Global, because we've had questions where people have said, can we have the recordings? And we just wanted to put a disclaimer there. When you enter the Zoom room, it does put the disclaimer where you agree and if it's okay for us to record you. And we are here to also advise that the recordings are the property of Hope for Her Global. However, when you want to listen into the recordings, you'll be most welcome to subscribe, like our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to catch all the recordings on the YouTube channel. I hope and trust that it is now clear. So once again, I will take this opportunity to welcome you all. We have Alpha Support men champions. And together, they joining us all the way from Kakamega, Kenya. We've got Banja joining us all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. And we have Monica and myself between the United States and Canada. Today, as Mama Sita said, as Monica did advise, we are talking about the vulnerable groups because often they're not as activists, feminists, and advocates. We tend to center ourselves on issues affecting women, the everyday issues. We talk of gender-based violence, we talk of sexual assault, we talk about climate, but we tend to forget that widows and the elderly and the women with disabilities are also women. And hence their needs need to be we need to center ourselves on their needs as well and advocate to create safe spaces for these groups. And as I've said again, every day should be 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, against women and girls. I'm also here to challenge, to say we have to dismantle and change the status quo. Every day should be 16 days of activism against all women and girls, women with disabilities, widows included, and the elderly. So with us today, we will start with our fireside chat with sisters from Kenya, Joyce and Carolyn. We welcome you. And we would like you, each person, each individual will share their journey. What has been your struggles? What were your lived experiences as a widow? And would like you to share your story. And you have 7 minutes each to take us through your journey. And then we'll go into the next session.
Okay. Good evening. Good morning. How are you there? My name is Caroline Madara from Kenya. I come in as a widow. I feel honored today. And we are here to change future generations for the widow. What I've experienced as a widow in my community, these are the challenges that I've undergone. There is husband inheritance, there is first one, and land possession. It's like even the relatives want to grab the land that the husband left. Even some of the properties of the house, they want them to be shared and they want to take the household properties from you. And they want equalities when it comes to possession. And we become the land. No one cares about us anymore. There is lack of care. We feel rejected. No one cares about us. And even at times, you are being misled by some of the relatives when it comes to compensation. And those are the challenges that I have I've passed through. And we have recognized that on this 16th day of gender-based violence activism, widows have been victims, and we have undergone violence, and most of the widows have not been able to speak because it's like it has never been recognized. But I thank God, as we have faced the 16th day of gender-based violence activism will change the generation, and we are there to empower widows. We're here to speak with widows. We are here to make a better future for the children left behind. And we have to have joy as widows, because we have come to know our rights as widows, and we want to stop this violence on widows. It's something which is very painful to lose a loved one, and then in-laws, instead of being close to you, now they become your enemies. They fight you, and you feel rejected. No one cares about you. And they've taken that opportunity because in our culture, men are meant to be our defense. It's like a fence. They are there to protect us. But once that fence is gone, they abuse you. And every source of insults, they insult you, and you feel rejected. Even you can end up having depression because whatever you are undergoing, you have no one to speak to. And long time ago, there was no one could detect that widows are facing violence. They were keeping quiet. They were suffering. They were undergoing depression. They were stigmatized. And we thank God for these 16 days of gender-based violence. And we are here to change. And we are here to make all the widows to be empowered, to be focused, and they'll make it in life. There is nothing which is too difficult for them. There is nothing which is too hard for them. Change will have to prevail, and widows' life has to change. Let me invite my sister, Joyce.
Thank you. I am Joyce Mideva, a Kenyan by citizen from Kakamega. I'm a Christian by faith, and I serve God in church as a leader of youth. I, being a widow, I faced so many problems after the death of my husband, and at times I was abused. In the real sense, he left behind a daughter, of which bringing her up was a difficult, or I faced so many challenges. But I thank God, because whenever I shared my problems to someone who is able to listen to me, I was encouraged, and I decided to join my fellow widows. We sit together and share our problems or our challenges. And I, being a widow, I know children face so many difficulties. And I am a leader that takes care or teaches or have sessions with the children at church. Like, as we know that there is cases of gender-based violence in society, they also affect the youth. And I, as a leader, I decided to initiative to prepare our boys and girls on how to go about the problems they encounter, because after they come from families that have those cases of gender-based violence, and in the real sense it affects them. So in church, like in my church, I have at around 100 children who I speak to or encourage and teach them. Whenever we teach them, we group them in groups according to their ages, and we share the teaching with other people in church. So you find that the young girls and boys don't know about their roles and responsibilities as they grow. So we try as much as we can to advocate to them so that they can know how to go about the issues that they are encountering. We encourage them to involve themselves in making some duties at home. They can involve themselves in digging, planting some crops. In that, if they plant some vegetables, they can sell them and buy whatever they are in need of. Like girls, you'll find that they need some sanitary towels. Maybe the parents they have, or wherever they stay, they cannot be able to afford to provide them for them. So if they commit themselves in doing some small farming and getting some little money, for girls, they can buy their sanitary towels for themselves, and the boys, whatever they are in need of. So we after encouraging them, they are committed themselves in doing something and not moving up and down, using their times in vain and doing things that can affect their lives. We also encourage them to have a small farming like poultry. Whenever they have those things, they can use them for meeting their expectations by selling them and buying whatever they need. We also put them together and seminar the young girls. I, as a widow, because I passed through so many challenges, I would not want to see these small kids facing difficulties, because I know from each family you'll find that we have some violence that comes across the young ones from their parents. And again, we even talk to their parents and encourage them to know that we share the problems that, or whatever we have talked to the children, the parents should know in order to give us input on whatever we talk, so that it can bear fruits in the family. I think if we get some well-wishers to support us reach the other youth, the community or the location or the county can grow. So we have some challenges for that. We have some challenges because at times when you want to speak to these kids, you are supposed to do something that can attract them. So we try to retain them after services in church, to talk to them. And whenever you want them to attend or remain, it means you have to do something to them. At times, we get some well-wishers that can buy some snacks for these kids so that they can concentrate and listen to whatever they are being taught, so that they can take some advantage. They can take this advantage to go through the sessions that we make. And again, we meet with the pastors to extend. We meet with the pastors to extend the. We meet with pastors in church to put a lot of impact on that spiritually. So beside we encounter some challenges, because the only time we can get to speak to these youth, these young boys, is just on Sundays. I, being a widow and a teacher to this youth, I find it difficult, because we are supposed to do this thing frequently, and you only find that it is just a Sunday that we can make it. So if we can have somebody to support, we can make even through the other days and continue mentoring this youth. So we are planning to involve the teachers so that they can have these programs to their sessions concerning the pandemic. We all know that there is gender-based violence, and it starts from the parents. So parents should take care. With that few remarks, I beg to end there. Thank you.
Okay, another challenge that as widows we are undergoing in our country, it's lack of education to our children, because we are left with children behind. We have to take care of our children. Our children has to be educated, because it's not the end of everything. They have to have a bright future. And the challenge that we have undergone as widows is a problem to educate our children. We need donors, we need sponsors, we need people to support us, so that we can make a brighter future for our children, so that they cannot feel that it is like they are missing something. No, we want to show to them, we want to show that we care for them. We show them the love by educating them, so that their star can shine, and they can feel the presence of commitment even to the community. And it's something that as widows in Kenya we undergoing. And Widows Voice couldn't be heard until when we joined Alpha. It has really helped us a lot, and I have been their facilitator. And through my session, we have organized women convention, and we have organized seminars and refreshers courses, and even we have organized women conference through our director, Dr. Charles Okwemba. Through the above, we have facilitated from different sources that comes and speak on gender-based violence on widows. And we thank God you're going to make a change. And I know, but in every battle, there is an everlasting blessing, and there is a reward for every widow, and there is crown of success. And when people are fighting us physically, as we are always fight neology, we shall go on our knees and fight spiritually through our pastors, through the guiding and counseling with our pastors, and we shall never give up. We shall never give up, and we shall make a good foundation. And we are here to break the cycle. We don't need to expose our problems again, because now we know our problems are being handled, and we are happy for this activism, because our voices are going to be recognized. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Caroline and Joyce. We really, truly appreciate and thank you for allowing us into your personal space and sharing your stories. If I have to say, I look back, my mother was a widow for 21 years, and hopefully along the way, I'll be able to write her story posthumously. But in hearing your struggles, what I'm trying to understand is what are we doing with the resources? Yes, I heard the lack of resources. I kept hearing that. The donors, assuming that the donors are nowhere in sight. I would like you to share with us the way you would envision your future, not only as a widow, but for other widows. What are the opportunities that you feel you can create in order, one, to empower the widows and also to elevate the widows in your community?
I come again at Alpha Support. We as widows, we came up with a way that each and every person to contribute 10 shillings per day, and we put the money together and arrived or received a certain amount, of which we decided to start a table banking for us to generate more money. And again, we started a poultry farm, of which we are running. And through the support of the Canadian Virtuous Women, they help us and support us fully to make that the project is running smoothly and is well taken care of. So we are so much proud and very happy for them because they support us for their interaction. And I know with that, we'll get more advanced and we'll grow and we no longer depend on or stay living complaining of problems that we face. But I know we will be safe and happy. Thank you.
We definitely want to thank Canada Virtuous Women for extending their gesture. And I'm aware of the work that they've plowed and planted into Kakamega widows. And with Adeline and Mercy and their whole team, we want to say thank you. This is the reason why we create the platform, so that we're able to share also what has worked and what has been offered to all of us. As I said earlier throughout, that when we gather during the 16 days and beyond, we exchange information, we learn from each other. So we hope we leave the platform feeling empowered, and in turn, you're able to go into your community and not only empower the widows, but you're able to come up with programs that will be able to sustain yourselves as a group, as a community. So we thank you for sharing some of the best practices, what has worked. And I'm also hearing where you have taken charge. I heard you say, no longer are we going to complain or feel sorry for ourselves. I'm hearing in you the take charge, which is what we hope you'll be able to spread throughout your communities to women that have been widowed. Because if you're able to elevate one widow and empower one widow, it means it's going to be a ripple effect. You are no longer, and I can promise you and reassure you that you will no longer be forgotten. Because as long as we stand for women's rights, widows are also women, and your rights matter. But we have to raise awareness. We have to create safe spaces. We have to create the sister circles where the widows will be able to come together and share their stories in confidence. We have to be each other's sisters. And this is where I challenge you to practice Ubuntu and remember each other as sisters. It doesn't become Caroline's story. It does not become Joyce's story. But let Joyce's story and Caroline's story, let your strengths inspire other widows and reach out to other widows. I'm hoping that for 2025, we're going to keep hearing more success stories from your end. We would want you to share with us in the first quarter what else you would have done after leaving the 16 days. What else are you going to be doing? What's going to be your call to action in the first quarter of 2025? So I thank you, my sisters, for sharing your truth and your journeys, for allowing us into your personal space. And I hope after this conversation that we will continue to work together in the collective so that we can raise the voices and amplify the widows' voices, because they too matter. So without further ado, I will then go on to call Linda, who is going to take us into the next session. So Linda Banja, our sister in crime, Monica and I keep adding on to our family of Hope for Her Global, and we work together as a collective. So I will call upon Linda to then take over from here. But thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Good evening, everybody. From Nairobi, it's 5:33 p.m. I'll be taking on the next set of panel discussions. We will be having discussions on, just give me a minute. Increased vulnerability to violence. And our speakers for the day will be Wanja Maina and Lillian Debo Eyong from Cameroon. So I need to confirm if Lillian is on board.
I don't see Lillian, but I do see Wanja.
So I think I'll allow her to introduce herself. Then we'll be able to proceed from there. So Wanja, good evening and welcome to our platform. Wanja?
Wanja is in there. Can you please? There.
Thank you so much, sisters from around the world. My name is Wanja Maina. Apologies for my voice. I have a bit of a cold, but I hope you can hear me all right. So I am somewhere in Kenya, in Nairobi. And I've been told to introduce myself. So I'll start with my name. My name is Hannah Wanja Maina. I am born or rather, I was born in central Kenya. I live in Nairobi. I have five siblings, and both parents are there. I think when Banja was reaching out to me, although I wasn't too responsive because of the overwhelming nature of this kind of activism we did. And she told me to really think along the lines of the issue of 16 days of activism and increased vulnerability. I think when I was just reading and watching what everybody is doing, I think I'll start by saying that for me, 16 days of activism is what we as activists, is what we as advocates, or however we describe ourselves, women rights, feminists, is what we shall do between December 11th, after the 16 days, and November 24th. Because I feel like what we are doing in the 16 days, certainly we are raising our voice and we are raising, it to the fore. But the real work is what we do when we don't have the 16 days of activism. Increased vulnerabilities. When we talk about increased vulnerability, my understanding of that phrase is that although many of us are vulnerable, susceptible to being harmed, both in the global south, in the global north, we've seen sad stories across the world, India, America, Kenya. There are some constituencies of people, or there are groups of people who are more susceptible to violence. This violence that we talk about, gender-based violence, in where I come from, or in the people I talk to around here, where I do my work, most people look at gender-based violence as physical violence. It is as if gender-based violence is synonymous to a broken hand, a black eye, or something. However, in my view, and the vulnerability that I see we should put to the fore is the increased nature of vulnerability of women undergoing psychological violence, economic exploitation, psychological violence, bullying. Now we are talking about technology facilitated. So in my view is that while we put a lot of focus on physical violence because it's more evident, we cannot trivialize or look away from the psychological violence that make women to shrink, to think of themselves lowly, because it seems like when it starts with the psychological, it's almost automatic that it will evolve to the physical. And in the worst case scenario, like in Kenya here, it can end up being a femicide where women ultimately die. Increased vulnerability. I have a disability, and I've been having a disability for the last many years. Increased vulnerability, I look at it in terms of women who are at the margins of society. Poor women, rural women, women with disabilities. The unfortunate thing, in my view, when people are at the margins of society, generally they are poorer. Generally, they are outside of the mainstream information network. Generally, they do not have access to the internet like the privilege I have, and therefore, they are not able to plug into conversation and to know that someone calling you bad names or beating you is bad. Some of our cultural extractions where we come from, some people perceive violence as a sign of love. If he beats you, he's reminding you that he loves you. Women with disabilities are 3 times likely to experience violence compared to women without disabilities. I didn't say this. It is the UN Women, it is the UNFPA, and those UN agencies that engage in research, and those UN agencies that engage with, looking at society. Now, therefore, when you're talking about interventions, in the spirit of leaving no one behind or reaching out to the farthest, then we have to ask ourselves, who are these women that are ordinarily at the margins of society? I would imagine in other contexts, women in the LGBT community. I would imagine women who are refugees, who live without some form of protection from the law. I would imagine women who participate in commercial sex work, but I will limit myself to women with disabilities because I think that's where my mind is at. When I say this, I wish to also, sorry, Banja, I carry on.
As a person with a disability, my
Yeah.
question to you would be, are there specific acts of gender-based violence that are restricted to persons with disability, being somebody who's been in a position of almost getting nominated to the political seat, and also exposure within the gender space? Are there specific types of gender-based violence that are restricted to persons with disability? And can you just specify for us the particular ones? If you have data on that, that would be great.
Yeah.
And probably my other questions will proceed as we discuss.
Thank you, Banja. I'll first say that I wish to disclose that that I have some form of privilege, which is good to share. That despite having a disability, I have some other advantages. For example, access to higher education and access to opportunities. And therefore, I wish to hold space for others. I'll start by talking about one, young people with disability or young women with disabilities who have mental challenges, intellectual disabilities, or how it's described. These are individuals who already live amongst community members and family members. I might add that research is telling us that most of the people who experience violence, particularly sometimes it's from people who are known to them. So young women who have intellectual disabilities are not able to talk well, they are not able to express. So unlike in other instances where someone can say that I was violated 1, 2, 3 by a person 1, 2, 3, for them, they can't talk or they can't even be believed, because you know how we view people with intellectual and mental disabilities in traditional African society. So for them, it can be prevalent because they can't talk, and even if they talk, they can't be believed. Issue 2. So that is mostly sexual exploitation and violation in those constituencies. And we've seen many stories, and we've seen even international debates around issues like forced sterilization. Some people would say it's their right, nobody should take away their reproductive rights. Others argue and say, this person is our dependent in our family, and therefore we have to do something to protect them from pregnancies. We've seen now how they even get pregnant, sometimes under very sad circumstances. The issue 2 is about young women with physical disabilities. Now the problem, or is it the problem, or is just how you find yourself? Now, when you have a physical disability, generally, you depend on other people, depending on the severity, no doubt. So you'll find that there's an individual who want to have bodily autonomy and to have their own free time, but you depend on an individual, even a romantic partner or a family member, to move you from point A to B. So now with that dependent, some people have experienced intimate partner violence, whereby your spouse or your romantic partner is withdrawing support and love for you because they feel like they can, because you need them to do activity 1, 2, 3. Of course, there are issues of economic exploitation, whereby even if you need some form of help, you have to pay for it. And you know what that means for people without money. Number 3, one of the challenges generally for young women with disabilities, unlike other young women or girl-led centers whereby girls are empowered with information in institutions of higher learning, information is hard for this constituency. UNDP is telling us that only 1% of girls and young women with disabilities are literate. So imagine you're dealing with people who never had any form of education, and you know interacting with education also comes with other information like comprehensive sexuality education, etc. So you're dealing with people in the dark, if I could use that phrase. You're also dealing with people who do not know where to seek for help, because it's one thing to know that you are suffering, but it's another to know where you can seek that help. So those are the 3 forms of violences that I see in the community, but also because they are marginalized, they rarely share information outside of their communities.
Okay, my second question, just drawn from the discussion you shared,
we find that their constituents, like the deaf, the blind, they have organizations, they have institutions that cover basically their rights. But now, like the constituent you're talking about, the persons with mental illness, how how have you been able to address their issue, considering also they're not able to directly speak out their rights? And then also, have you had the opportunity of having policymakers consider such people who, I'd say, need third parties to speak out for their rights?
Thank you so much for that question, Banja. And as you said, how have I been able to reach out? Sorry, I'll switch off my video a bit. How have I been able to address? How have I been able to deal with these issues? As an individual, I'm a founder of a Young Women with Disabilities-led organization. So that has empowered us in this way. We've been able to form our own organizations and our own ways of reaching out to us amongst ourselves. But then again, challenges abound. And this is what I wish to say. If you see policymakers, if you say reaching out to policymakers, making activities, making things that would involve bringing people together, it is no doubt that all those activities are capital intensive and they will require resources, technical expertise, and money. Now, the challenge that we experience is that according to the research that was done recently, less than 2% of global aid goes to organizations of people with disabilities. Less than 2%. So the first challenge, I would say the first challenge is always money and resources to do our organizing. You talk about policymakers, government officials, those individuals who are able to help us even to make our lives better. This is what I wish to say. In a country like Kenya and many other African countries, I would say that governments are always dealing with competing priorities. So you'll find, they say you're as strong as your weakest link. So you'll find, is this subject, does it look like a priority or does it look like an interesting subject for a government official to engage in? Yet, the politicians and how they like publicity and what have you. So I noticed that this subject of engaging with this youth does not look like it's particularly politically beautiful, if I were to use that phrase, to have them, take it more seriously and to have them, deciding that they want to carry on with it. That said, I have seen attempts of people trying to engage with policymakers, but it is more or less a touch and go. It's more or less a touch and go, and never really an issue that you can say it's being pulled through or having them pushing it to the very end. So pushing it to the very end or moving with us to the very end. So it has been a challenge. And then I noticed that there's a lot of lip service to our issues. Like when we talk with the government officials, they will say, this is good, this is beautiful. But if you really want to see if someone is supporting your agenda, then the most important thing is to see it being reflected in your budget line. Also remember, one of the big challenges we share in our community is lack of appreciation for lived experience when it comes to policy making. For example, say today, your organization or your civil society organization, Banja and your team, you want to make a policy maybe for refugee women, you want to make a policy for women from Pacific or something, some marginalized women. Ordinarily, if I see the call for application, the first thing will be education background, the first thing will be prior experience with consultancies. But then again, young women with disabilities are saying they feel like their lived experience is the first prerequisite to be taken seriously, even in policy. So I noticed that unlike in other instances where people take lived experience seriously, in Kenya, most of the policies do not reflect the challenges or the aspirations of the marginalized people. And that is one of the things that I sadly note here.
Thanks for that. My last question would probably be, what would be your recommendations based on, I'll use Kenya as an example, because Kenya, we have the 47 counties, so that we are able to appreciate as well the different dimensions of gender-based violence that persons with disability face. What would be your recommendation as somebody who's been exposed, who's been working with persons with disability, who's a person with disability, to enable people appreciate from the grassroots to the national level to the international level, so that we can be able to amplify the situation that persons with gender-based persons with disability face as an aspect of gender-based violence.
Thank you so much. Recommendations, way forward, what I think can be done better. I think the first thing could be break the silence in our villages, in our homes, because it is upon breaking the silence in our villages and in our homes that people are able to appreciate that this is truly a problem. So in my view, and especially considering that most of this violence for young people with disabilities is mostly by family members and people known to them, break the silence, tell the police. If it becomes amplified even by the media, the better. The second recommendation will be, in Kenya, health is a devolved function. But then again, even when you're looking at the budget lines, they don't look at gender-based violence as a health issue. It is always moved round and round. You'd think it falls in the social services. You don't know if it falls in the gender. You don't know where it falls. So I would say that it's important for gender-based violence and that harm to be seen as a health issue. In any case, we lose a lot of money when it comes to treating those constituencies. Issue 3, I would say, believe and take the lived experiences of people with disabilities seriously, and take the lived experiences of people with disabilities as experts. That way, interventions and programs will reflect the aspirations of these individuals. More or less, as the Yorubas in Nigeria say, you cannot shave a man in his absence. So you have to always get people in the room. 4, inclusion is important. Integration is important, but also tailor-making programs. Let's say, for example, right now, I've been doing a lot of work with the organization that I registered, the Hummingbird Grassroots Center. I'll tell you this. There's a group of young people with disabilities who live positively with HIV in a certain Nairobi informal settlement. If you go as an outsider, they won't be very warm to you. But if you tell me to go and talk to them and then you talk with them, because there's that communal activity where people believe others who are like them. Importantly, it's important to just amplify the voices of young activists with disabilities, get them to talk, get them to contribute their views, respect their views even, give them global platforms like the one Banja and her team has given me today. That way now it will become a normalized topic in our communities. So that's where my mind is at. Thank you.
So that's very articulate presentation. Anybody would have a question for her? Before I hand over the mic back to Monica so that she can proceed with the Canada virtual swimming.
There is no questions in the chat.
Okay, Monica, I'll hand the mic back to you and then you can proceed with the Canada virtual swimming. Thanks, Wanja, for the presentation.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we are gonna go through the other side. Is Caroline was here. Oh, I see you. Sorry about that. Still my sore throat thing. It's like never ending. Caroline, so we have been with you for so long. And I see your camera, but I cannot see you. Caroline, can you Are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Caroline? I'm not sure what is going on with Caroline. Caroline, are you there? Okay, well, she gets ready. We're gonna put there a question because this is an important, and I think everybody, and with the expertise that we have here, it's important for us to talk about it, to see what is the solution, because we know that it's a problem. It's known. We have been seeing from Africa, we have been seeing for different places, even here in Canada, that we believe that everything is really good. But I would like to talk and hear from Tamarack, for example. I would like to, because you have a lot of experience with different women around the world. And we know it's a fact. But I would like to know from you, what do you think that it will be a solution? What, in your point of view, will be a solution?
Well, that's a powerful question. I see the solution happening through days like this, through every time you provide a place for us to meet each other, to know what each other are doing, and to be able to, when the 16 days are over, already have the links and the addresses to stay in touch with each other. What I see forming through this kind of coming together and speaking out and putting on the table the work that's being done and what needs to be done, we have never in the history of time had a global circle of women who are in touch with each other and able to find ways to work together. We've never had that. And now through your work and through the organization that I'm also so deeply appreciative of, World Pulse, we have this global circle. And I also want to add in here that the gentle and determined men who are working to end violence too. So I hold out tremendous hope that we are at a place in time on this earth that we've never had before. Because now, through what you're doing here and through the other organizations like World Pulse, we have powerful circles that we are able to stay in touch in between these wonderful moments when we get to be together online like this through the 16 days. So we know from each other what needs to be done. We find ways to help each other, to work with each other. And we can never be told that it's impossible. We can never be told that change doesn't happen, because we have the news from each other of change that is happening because of what's being done by people like everybody who's here today.
Yeah, that's true. And but you say something important is we have the solution. We do have it. And if we already talk about the church and stuff, but one of the girls with Charles she says about Alpha, which is a program within the church. And we talk as well about the church and what they can do with the widows and what they are doing right now. So we have in different entities, we have a solutions, but as well we have a problem because we are a human being. But it's important to know what is out there. And now I would like to call just to see what are the solutions that they have and what has been in all the different problems. I don't know if somebody from Canada Virtuous Women as well is in there, and if she just can tell us what is the solution and what is the problem when we are dealing with widows and we are dealing with people and women with disabilities. Are you there?
Are you asking another member of
Yeah,
the?
I want to go there. Or if you can tell us as well, I would love to do it. More precisely, what has been those problems that you detect and what has been the solutions that you see in the future can help in those problems? Because this is good. And this is kind of for us revitalize, because this is a hard work sometimes. Because even, listen, when I post our videos in YouTube and stuff, and you start looking for words that the people looking for to make the videos better, I have been found that the people doesn't look for solutions. Like they don't look because they are kind of in the problem. They are in kind of with some covering, and they don't want the people to see that they have a problem or that they need help. But in your point of view, what is that? How we can arrive, how we can get those problems out and start looking for a solution.
Well, I think that what Hope for Her Global does is creating that change, because here today and all through these 16 days, you have been giving the chance to so many of us to voice the world that we see as possible, and within that it's voicing the places where we're stuck, the places where we're held back. But this is creating the change that we can speak with the information that we share with each other, so that all of the issues get addressed, and that we um, that we stand together for the world that we know is possible. But this involves changing the narrative in what's taught in schools, changing what the narrative in what's taught in communities by community leaders, that the way it is has not always been this way, and we need to change it. Instead of another generation of men, for instance, being taught that they have the right to dominate women. Why is that narrative still being taught to kids in families, even in some churches, even in schools? Why is it still being taught? And why are women who are speaking out about a different kind of global society, local and global societies, why are we being labeled as too radical or too outspoken? And so by what for instance, you're doing with 16 days is documenting that there are many of us who are addressing this in our communities, and there are many of us who are speaking out about the world that's possible.
Okay. And here, and it's important what you said, because we have been planting the seed. We have been trying to get together and say, here is what is happening. And sometimes we are coming with a new foundation, with a new charity, with a new nonprofit to try to help everybody. But Uncle Charles says in the chat that Joyce and Carol, after attending the right advocacy in their group, they start to follow and fight for recover the title of their lands. But it was because they went there. Now, what about in this time of Christmas? I'm gonna put a challenge to everybody out there. Mostly when we are talking about seniors, we are talking with people on disabilities. We are talking about people that need that help. And that through the years, we have been collecting information, and we know that they are in need of our help. Sometimes, even if you don't have the resources, you don't have to bring nothing. But I'm going to challenge each one of you. Because here at Hope for Her Global, we believe that we can bring hope to one woman, one girl, one widow, one disability person, one kid at a time. And we don't have to have probably the resource, or if you have it, bring as well that resource that you can bring. But if you in this Christmas, in this time of a new year, and you go to or you approach that one, you're gonna give hope, and you're gonna start that relationship. I do believe that sometimes we cannot do the math. We cannot change the government at once. We are working on it. But right now, we can do it. We can have one person and visit that person and give hope to that person. With that, you start that relationship, because sometimes, in my point of view, is the relationship that that person will be needed to know all what we know here. So that is my challenge for you guys, to start to do what you can do. Know what we can not change, which is the government. What do you think about that challenge?
I think that's where the work is happening. That's where the change is happening, and I completely agree that everyone that we reach, and it's most important to stay focused on who is having a horrible time, who is in danger, and reaching one woman, one girl, one gentleman, helping two, hopefully, and at the same time to work with these tremendous global circles that we're able to form now and challenge the government, challenge the UN. Why are we moving backward when through all these years we've been calling for respect for women and girls, an end to violence, an end to war, an end to poverty? And so in that way too, now that we have each other as such a powerful global circle, we need to challenge our governments. We need to challenge the UN, as if it's not a radical idea that we live in a world in which everyone has what they need: food, shelter, safety.
Absolutely.
So thanks for the opportunity to
Absolutely. So I leave that challenge in there. Tomorrow is going to be as well an interesting day. We're going to talk about the positive masculinities, and we are our sister and brothers as well. It's going to be a day full as well. And think about it, what I left in the table. Who is that person that you can go? Who is that person that you can give hope? And so, you know, that is same channel. Later, I will put the recording for this and just share. Like our channel, the more that we put in the media, the more that we can go out there, more people is going to be knowledge that is help out there. Anyway, I really thank you for all the people that have been here and for to be out there and tell your story that is going to help somebody else. Thank you. Bye-bye.